Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, May 10th. This is the level 1 recording, and I will do, 2 hours of recording today, but it's going to be very loosely organized into level 1 and level 2. So yes, you notice I'm now in a new context. I have relocated. I'm in a new spot. It's a good move, and I'm still getting organized. And so what I decided to do, because I don't have, I have not prepared the way I usually would for a weekly presentation, I want to do some more wrap up, like going back over, just like, if we're learning music on the piano, it's like you learn different chunks. You learn this, then you learn this, then you learn this, and you got to tie everything together at a certain point and turn it into a cohesive thing that flows together. So I did one wrap up that was earlier in the semester, and we're almost at the end of the semester. This is lesson 15, and it's a 20-part class. Just check, there's technological things are happening on my screen. It's a 20-part class. It means, basically I'm going to do a couple of more presentations, wrap up the semester, and then maybe have a week's break and get everybody on board for the next semester of 2018. So, yes, and because I also understand that just being immersed in lasagna without any background or preparation can be a little bit overwhelming. So I want to make sure that everybody who wants to be able to climb on board can climb on board, and also that it's not too daunting, even though we've pretty much done all the foundation work of figuring out what are the basic concepts, what is the basic vocabulary that I'm using, and the vocabulary that I'm using, it's visual vocabulary. When I draw here, let me get this little sculpture that I draw all the time. When I draw that lower quadrant of this sculpture, I'm using like a visual shorthand. So this is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do another kind of comprehensive retrospective of where we've come on the journey so far, and then do a couple of more presentations before the semester closes, but I'm going to wrap everything up in a good way. So, okay. So I have to, and let me put my thing down just in a safe way. So I draw all the time this lower area of this sculpture, which is actually, it's a vortex, but I draw it like a flat two-dimensional object. Wait, I should start from the beginning. All right, if I'm going to do a little bit of wrap up here, I should start from the beginning. So I'm going to get a whiteboard out. So, and let's see if everybody can see me properly. If I make a big red circle, can you see this properly? Just making sure. Somebody say something in the chat if you can see that properly. And I'll move the chat so I can see it too. So this is the cross section of that yellow. Good. Thank you for confirming that technology is working for me. I was joking about my snafu this morning of a download that made my computer freeze. Yeah, the very rough and ready drawing over here. But you see, I'm basically drawing a line version of what we have in that yellow sculpture, and that these are 4 vortices that all converge on a central convergence point. So I've spoken in other lessons how that central convergence point over there is the 0th dimension. And 0, not because it is worthless, like in this capitalistic society. If I say to people a lot of the time, it's 0, they think, oh, it means nothingness, or it's worthless, or it's not valuable or good in some way. And I'm like, no. It's the 0th dimension, but it's everythingness. It's literally infinity. Here I'm drawing the little infinity symbol. It's literally infinity. It's the tor of the torus, or the donut hole. It's where all of these, when I draw this infinity symbol, it's exactly the energy pattern that flows around here. It flows around these 2 circles like a figure 8, but it doesn't stop there. It also goes into the other dimensions too, so that it goes all the way around it like a big giant, like the yellow sculpture that I have, that I was just showing you. It's an infinite journey of energy flowing around this shape. Now let me break in just for a moment, because a lot of people are like, wait, Aurora, I hate this shape. I hate this shape because I hate reincarnating, and I hate circulating around endlessly, a la Groundhog's Day. This funny, brilliant comedic movie, going through the time vortex over and over. So, when I am showing this accurately, the timelines spiral around the time vortex like that. But mostly what I'm doing is a shorthand where I show them kind of like lollipops, kind of lined up like toothpicks, just going up and down like this. That's just for the ease of me being able to draw it and everyone being able to see it. It's like doing an atomic diagram. I understand that's not what atoms really look like, but I'm drawing all of these timelines. And now I'm drawing the one that is the one that matters the most, the central core timeline. So that one that I just drew, you know, like one arrow pointing upward like that, that's one leg of its journey. That's not the entire journey, because what actually happened was that timeline circulated out into here, and then you can see it kind of tracing along at the bottom and assembled down here, like ballerinas assemble at the bar and they do their first position. They're like ready to dance. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to come out to this big giant blue dot that I just drew and assemble there, and then begin moving upward in the direction I just drew that arrow. And this is essentially like telling you perfect posture or perfect alignment. This is in a perfect world. That was in the world of Atlantis. That everybody, I'm going to just make a big fat blue line. Everybody traveled on the big fat blue line. All of this other stuff, let's choose a different color so I can just scribble. All this other stuff in green over here, nobody explored. And this is big when it comes to personality characteristics, because what we're looking at, this whole entire apparatus here, like I'm going to circle this whole thing. It's like a refinery or like a pump. And what it refines is personality characteristics, or just like a lens refines and focuses light. Here, I'm drawing a lens, and here's a bunch of light waves that are coming through a lens. And what happens is that lens focuses them down and makes them all converge on a focal point. And then we say, hey, that lens is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, right? This apparatus over here is exactly the same thing. It is a lens, and it's a lens of consciousness. And it focuses divergent personality characteristics, all this stuff that's here in the periphery, all of this stuff that is distorted personality characteristics, that all gets focused and realigned until it's just this central timeline. I should do that in dark blue so that I'm not confusing anyone. This dark blue timeline that I would call the path of least likelihood, because there's only one of it. So there's only one little time. It's like there's one exit. There is one right note. There is one right note in this entire piano keyboard. And all of the other notes that we may play, not right, definitely not right, no, 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 no. Those are all, you could call them failed lifetimes, but I don't want to use the word failure, but it's like a failed experiment. Those are all iterations. Like, you know, when you do a combination, 1 + 3 equals question mark, and you go through the iterations in order to find out what it is. So all of these peripheral side possibilities, they all exist as like you're doodling away in the margins. This is like you in the margins trying to figure out how to solve the equation. And you draw and you're like, well, that's not the right one, try again. That's not the right one, try again. That's not the right one, try again. And that is why people are like, Aurora, we hate this whole entire object. We hate having to go through life, trial and error, constantly dying and being reinserted and reconfigured and trying it in a slightly different direction. And I completely agree. It is quite exhausting and it is quite inappropriate. And it's not the original design of what I would call the great composer or the great creator. The being that created this whole entire system actually created it. It's very beautiful. So what we're understanding is that there is a, I want to say a flaw. There's a flaw in the system that we are presently inhabiting. And my solution, now I'll go back to my face, my solution to this flawed system is flying rainbow lasagna. This is how we can transcend the flaw in the system. Let me drink a little bit of water here. Now, I also say this all the time, just to be really, really clear, because I'm not a transhumanist. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm using any of these examples and they're like, Aurora wants us to eat microchips and become the Borg. No, I'm not the Borg. Don't eat microchips. But it's this whole idea of that science fiction movie, Star Trek movie with Captain Kirk, and he does the Kobayashi Maru, where he's given like a virtual reality where he has to pretend to be the captain of a starship, but it's a no-win scenario. And no matter what he does, crew members are going to die, or the spaceship is going to get exploded, or something bad is going to happen. And he doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want to have that failure on his record. He's just like at the Starfleet Academy. So what does he do? He reprograms the possibilities that are in the computer system so that he can have a new option available. And this is, in a way, transcending the limitations of the original program, which were unfair to begin with. Like, it was just to see how people would react under pressure, which I think is very crappy. It's a very crappy way of treating potential star captains, you know? So each one of us, first of all, think of yourself. You are an individual starship captain, and your vessel is your physical body, right? And we've been submerged in this system that is very unfairly programmed. Just like the Kobayashi Maru scenario, our socio-economic, religious, and even biological programming has all been intentionally distorted and intentionally limiting to us, kind of to see what we're made of, kind of to see, this does not justify this in any way, but it's kind of to see, like, can we get this out of you? Can we get this out of you? Like, can we get misery out of you? Can we, first of all, can we get sadness, grief, pain, misery? Can we get that out of you? Also, to kind of see, like, how will you react, and what is going to happen? What is going to be your approach to this? So that is the whole point of the endless searching through the various iterations until you find the right note. You're not supposed to have to endlessly search. What we're all supposed to do is actually have a higher faculty called insight that allows us to see down the road of time. And this is like a tendril that reaches outward. It literally is your attention, from Greek attenuos, meaning to reach out. So we have this kind of tendril, or like an elephant's trunk, that reaches forward. And basically, guys, you got to understand, whatever you are touching with your attention, this is an intimate act. This is an act of connecting. Just in the same way, if you touched someone with your finger, we can make a joke about the flying spaghetti monster touching people with their noodly appendage, but I don't want to be associated, because people always think flying rainbow lasagna, spaghetti monster. It's not. But it's this idea that, you know, what you are thinking about and placing your attention upon, you are giving energy to, and you are receiving energy from. It's a bi-directional highway. It's not a unidirectional highway. This is the funniest thing, because people think when they start to develop their higher faculties, they're like, ooh, I'm going to reach out with my noodly appendage and I'm going to touch whomever that I want, and no one's going to know about it. Like, ha, ha, ha. Like, I'm dying laughing over here. Like, yeah, the truth is everybody knows about it. Because it's kind of like, you know, if you're sitting at the dinner table and everybody's up above the surface level of the dinner table, and there's a certain level of social comportment that is going on above there. But underneath the table, like, somebody's kicking somebody else in the kneecaps, somebody's being violent, they're doing all sorts of things, and they're pretending like no one knows what's going on. It's totally disingenuous. So, you know, in the time of ancient Atlantis, that sophisticated worldwide culture before the fall of consciousness, before the fall from grace, however you would like to culturally describe that, it was a telepathic society, and we are emerging again, or climbing back up again into those levels of comportment. And what that means is that what happens, I did this in the Facebook intro, your inner world of thoughts and emotions and passions and dreams and imaginations seamlessly communicates with the outside world. It's totally, I mean, I tell people all the time, you're not swimming around in your own private kiddie pool. Just because your thoughts are, quote unquote, inside of your head doesn't mean that you're not connecting with other people. You're connecting with other people a lot. So this has always been the truth. And for a very long time, people have diminished it. They're like, we're just paying attention to what's above the surface of the table. No one's kicking anybody underneath the table at all. Oh, no, horrors, heaven forbid. But meanwhile, that's been going on for a very long time. This is called dark magic. Dark magic. Dun, dun, dun. So it's a very unpleasant topic, but at this point, the cat is out of the bag. I used to save this information just for initiated members of the class, not because I'm trying to be mean or anything like that, but because some people would take it all in the wrong way and fly off the handle. It is now out there. Like, I've been doing this class literally for 5 years, and the concepts that I've been speaking about, you know, just on a relatively small magnitude level, you know, whatever, 10 or 20 or 50 people, those concepts have been like mycelium. They are now along the root level of all of our consciousness. So yes, it is now widely recognized that the planet has been invaded. It's an invasion of consciousness, and it's an invasion that affects DNA. There's harmful, I call them occupiers of the interstices, or turds who refuse to flush. They occupy the membrane between worlds, and that membrane between worlds, just muting everyone, not because I don't love you, just there's no feedback in the background. That membrane between worlds, this where I'm placing my finger over here, that's meant to be the membrane of death. that is meant to be the place where energy does not go. And let me just go back to here. And so this is basically how these beings that are undead are getting fed. Where did they get their food from? Where do they get their money from? Like when I say money, I'm also talking about currency. Like we use physical dollars or whatever, shekels or tokens or whatever, to go to a store and buy something. And these beings, they don't use money like we do. They use consciousness. Where are they getting their consciousness dollars from? Where are they getting their consciousness stuff from? So wait, go back to the whiteboard. This over to here. I know I make squinty scrolly faces. Okay, so those beings that live on, let me do this. They live on the membrane of death. The membrane of death is this big black line that I'm drawing over here. And that's supposed to be a place of cold, dead, frozen entropy. That's supposed to be a place where nothing moves. Entropy means frozen. It does not mean stuff is moving around in time. This area that I'm highlighting in black, this is where energy moves around in time. And in order for it to move around in time, it's like your car needs gas to make it go on the road. Consciousness is the gas that makes your car go on the road of time. And those beings, because they don't have their own connection to divine life source and life force energy, and they're not connected to the source because of their own horrible, horrible life choices that they regret horribly. So what they do is, now I'm like drawing like little teeth. They eat like a vampire or like a monster. They siphon energy off of the area that I'm scribbling in black over here. That's the area of life. That's you and me. This is why this matters. And this is also why, it can be very disheartening. And also when people start to recognize that those membranes between worlds, those like interstices, they exist in the genetic realm inside of each one of us. So like this is a profound realization. Okay, here we go. I don't know exactly what's going on with my computer, but I'm just leaving it. This is a profound realization because each one of us has DNA inside of us. And I'm telling you that DNA not only determines, the shape of your eyeballs or the shape of your earlobe, but also it determines your flight through time from moment to moment. And that this is the time field where possibilities and probabilities, events in time reside. And that there are these negative occupiers of the interstices, the turds who refuse to flesh, that are stuck on the membrane of death, and that they are essentially distorting the time field by taking life force energy off of you and me. They do it through your DNA. This is the thing. And I want to be very cautious that no one's going to be like trying to claw out their skin and be like, get the demons out of me. There's demons in me. Like, say, no. Don't yes, technically there are demons inside of you. And so there's all of these cultural myths in this time and place. Like one is having an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other shoulder, or the idea of wrestling with one's inner demons. This is, how they euphemistically speak about people that are engaged in substance abuse or addiction. Let me drink water. Wrestling with their demons. And addiction definitely is wrestling with a demon, and there are family demons, familial inherited personality characteristics. We're talking about a lens. This is a lens that is a refine here, like this part is circular. You can understand it's a lens that is refining the parts that are on the periphery over here into the parts that are only in the center. And the parts that are the periphery, those are highly, highly distorted personality characteristics. They're not the real you. So some of those versions of you, it's like imagine a bundle of timelines. Each one of my fingers is a timeline, and they all exist in a bundle. And then this would be, the truest version of you that has all of your real personality characteristics. And as we move further and further away, and here, and even further and further away from that central core timeline and central personality characteristics, you become less and less yourself. So I can use my dog as a little example. She's actually taking a little dog nap in the room over there. I gave her a nice long dog walk this morning, a little chew toy and everything, so that she would kind of like be peaceful during the webinar time. So she's super awesome. She's like really friendly. I've taught her not to be afraid of strangers and, be good with little kids, and she gets little treats from people and everything. And she's learned, it's all about like training and a positive socialization and stuff like that. But let's say there's a version of my little dog that, was treated horribly, or like, trained to be some kind of like vicious chihuahua in a dog fighting factory or something like that. Christine's laughing because she knows my little dog, right? She's like, Cheeky would never be that way. You guys know, like, you love my little dog. But what if on one of those, here, this timeline far distant versions of reality. That's not the real her. But in order to survive, she had to fight and bite other dogs and be mean, like some kind of like a Mad Max reality where she's wearing like a studded leather collar and like having to be really tough and bite other people and bite other dogs. Like that's not the real her. That's not the real person. So all of this is, let me go to the whiteboard and I'll draw this out too, is about when this is a huge distinction to make. Because, okay, if I'm telling you, all right, let me grab my little pencil too. If I'm telling you this over here, this big giant blue dot, that's black dot right there, that's the singularity. And think simplistically, everything comes from the singularity and everything goes to the singularity and we're all the same person and blah, blah, blah. Let's just hug everyone. No, because there are divergent personality characteristics. So now I need to draw a, let me just move this group chat over to here. If I draw a different diagram where I say, hey, here's like beginning timeline, beginning timeline, beginning timeline. And here's that source that is the destination. And then all of these lines that connect back to the source, those would all be considered paths of least likelihood and the path of ascended masterhood, mastership. And now let me, whatever, get another color here. These are, the time vortices. So I've just drawn them kind of like at an angle, but all connecting together. And these are blue membranes of death, but none of the black lines connect to the membranes of death. That's the whole point. In Atlantis, everybody ascended. Nobody hit the membrane of death. Death was not a thing. Death was not a thing. Nobody died. And the idea of that in this time and place, people think of death as this inevitability is, to me, just very distressing. Like, no, death is not inevitable. If there's one takeaway, if you're like not getting it except for one idea, this is a very valuable idea. Death is not inevitable. In fact, what is really inevitable is this central core timeline, finally making it to that central portion of you that is the real you. So, the versions of you that are like dog fighting in the Mad Max world, those are like the ones that are out here on the periphery, where maybe you had to be very distorted in order to survive, or life's events, your response to life events made you very distorted, and that's not the real you in terms of personality characteristics. However, this black line that goes back to the source, that is who you really are. So now we have to look at how this graph actually works, because if we have overlapping lives, here, let me draw this properly. Let's draw some overlapping lives. There's life 1, and here's life 2. And some areas of life 1 overlap with some areas of life 2, but not all. So in math, this is some but all, some but not all. So now let me just grab one more color. So the area of overlapping is this area in green. That's where these two lives can possibly meet and interact. It's a graphic representation of time, timelines, and possibilities. So where I'm putting my pencil right now, that black life does not interact with the red life there. There's no overlapping timelines. There's no possibilities. It's like saying the people might be on the same planet or in the same existence, but they never meet and interact with one another. And the only places where those two people meet and interact are in that area that I just circled in green. But now we have to understand that those two areas where you're meeting and interacting are on the periphery. You might be meeting the Mad Max, heavily distorted version of a person or a dog or a butterfly or whatever that is on the far edge of what it really is. And you, meanwhile, might be on one of these timelines here. Let me get a good color. You might be this blue timeline that's actually, getting pretty close to being your true self. That actually represents personality characteristics that would be considered eternal. Like our egos are temporal, they are temporary. They are only based in the experience of being submerged in time, as opposed to our eternal selves, our eternal personality characteristics that go onward like a laser light has coherence. There's light waves that are laser light waves, and they keep on going and going and going in this direction endlessly because they have coherence. All of the peaks and all of the troughs line up perfectly. It's also like a music, a tone. beautiful music that has longevity and coherence and keeps on going because all of the harmonics line up perfectly like this. And that is, you know, that's essentially what we're trying to do, and we are becoming ascended masters. So my whole takeaway is becoming an ascended master is inevitable. Death is not inevitable. Death is not something that everybody has to be like, oh, we accept it, and goldfish die, and grandma dies, and everybody dies. Let me drink water. No, it's actually not acceptable. It's not what's supposed to be happening. And the idea of planetary death is just the biggest, what's the word for something that just makes you just drop your opera glasses? It's just the biggest affront, the sheer affront. Planetary death is not only, it's not something that's supposed to happen. It's like walking around like with your pantaloons showing. Like, that is not supposed to happen. Planets are not supposed to die. And when we look at our, here, go back to my face. When we look at our solar system, you know, there are some dead planets floating around in our solar system. Mars is a dead planet. A bad thing happened there. The magnetosphere got blown up and distorted, and all of its atmosphere blew away. And Venus does not have a magnetosphere either. And there's currently an asteroid belt where there should be a planet. It got vibrated out of existence. Now it's just a bunch of rocky debris. None of that is okay. And these are dead planets. So it's like, wow, like there's a lot of petticoats showing up there when you look up in the sky. There's a lot of things that are not supposed to be there. But that doesn't mean that you calibrate to say, that is normal. I will just accept that as normal. Like, no, that is not normal. So we're in this aberrant situation. This is what I'm trying to say. The ideal world is everybody emanates from the source on the beat. Like, this is you're supposed to play the music of life. You're supposed to go when the conductor tells you. So you rest, play. Now it is time for you to be born. And there's a lot of beings that got themselves born, but not into biological containers, using technology, and stayed alive using dark technology, which is siphoning off life force energy from the living and going to the dead, undead, right? And then they are messing up the music for all of those beings who are alive and who are attempting to play the right notes. Let's also now talk about a couple of different things that are undead in our society. Drinking water. Viruses are undead. Viruses are not technically what is supposed to be in the natural world. They are a totally artificial creation. They can't eat, they can't metabolize, they can't reproduce. All of that needs a host, a physical embodied person like you or I. That is what they require in order to, you know, be in existence. That's not a part of the original musical score. This is like a horrible improvisation. So yeah, semi-alive viruses, demons that are semi-alive. These are non-corporeal. We would call them perhaps supernatural life residues that maybe never had a physical existence, or maybe had a very brief physical existence and then smashed their guitar on stage. And now they don't get to have their own connection to the source and life force energy, which is love energy. We run operating system love, OS love, that allows you to eat and continue to move through time. They didn't do that. So when you're an ascended master, when you hit that central core timeline, and it's like you are set as a set of personality characteristics, you eat nothing but pure love. And we can get into a whole diatribe also about the necessity of death in terms of eating in this time and place. Like, our whole bodies got changed in order to require physical food. That means something has to die for us to stay alive. And there's a lot of dietary philosophies that are around and about right now in terms of vegetarianism and veganism. However, many self-righteous vegans must recognize that something needs to die in order for you to be alive, and that is part until each one of us can transition into eating nothing but pure light. So P.S. So this is your higher faculties, this is your attention, whatever you touch with your attention, it is an intimate act. What you are focusing your attention on and thinking about is an intimate act. If you're making love to your wife and you are thinking about Marilyn Monroe or something like that, you're touching with your mind and with your attention someone who is not in your bed, who you are not actually connected to. Or what if you're thinking about baseball scores? People do this, is what I hear on Earth, that they think about anything other than their partner. Like that, you are in an intimate act then with Major League Baseball, not actually with your partner. And same thing, like if there's whatever, advertising or some stupid reality TV show or whatever that is forced into your consciousness, like you see an advertisement or whatever, and it says, think about me, think about me, think about me. You're then in an intimate act with that manufacturer of lipstick, or that car, or that reality TV show, or that pop singer, or whatever. Like, you weren't thinking about them before, but now you're thinking about them. Your attention is literally being focused on them. And this is an intimate act. And this is also, it's a form of energy harvesting, especially when it's not something that you want to be going on. And this falls under the description of things that are happening underneath the surface level of the table, where everybody is kicking each other in the kneecaps and pretending they're not actually doing this. This is like, yeah, they know they're taking energy away from you. These occupiers of the interstices. So semi-alive beings, viruses are semi-alive. Corporations are semi-alive. Corporations, since the Citizens United Supreme Court decision in the United States, corporations have been deemed entities. They're actual living beings, the way that you and I can be a living being, but they can't eat, they don't poop, they don't care if the planet is, a horribly irradiated nightmare or whether it is beautiful and pristine, and they require a host. They don't just exist with their own life force connection. They need a host. In this case, it's a planet with consumers. Like, if you don't buy from Walmart, Walmart doesn't stay alive. Its metabolism doesn't keep going. I don't shop at Walmart. I don't want its metabolism to keep going. It's a semi-alive being that cannot actually live independent of its host. And so this is it's recognizing also the difference between a parasite or a pathogen as opposed to something that is a valued co-inhabitant. Because we have microbes in our tummy. I'm pointing to my tummy in here. We have tons of microbes in our tummy. We have microbes that live on the surface of our skin. This is just because you find out demons are inside of your DNA, don't rip your face off. Also, you're teeming with microbes, don't rip your face off. Because some microbes are your friend, and they're actually supposed to be there, and that you are working in partnership with them. They're like, oh, I love eating Aurora's epithelial cells. They taste so good to me, and I fight off pathogenic bacteria. So I'm like, cool. The good guys, you get to stay, eat as many epithelial cells as you want to, be like on board, come along for the ride. And same thing with the little gut microbes in my tummy. They're like, oh, we digest your food for you, and then you eat us. Seriously, like if you're a self-righteous vegan, you have to understand that the fermentation process means that you're consuming tons and tons of microbes. Well, I'll go into this too. The idea of seeds. Seeds are the consciousness of a plant you press pause on the plant. Like, it's not moving through time anymore. It's gone into a state of suspended animation. It's press pause on that experience. So if you take an ear of corn, those are all little suspended animation corn plants, or an ear of wheat or whatever, grain of wheat, stalk of wheat. It's all seeds for the future. The plant actually wants to move its consciousness into the future. And if you take all of those seeds and you grind them up, you're committing genocide in the plant realm. It's so very horrible. And it's literally what you're doing, because you're making it so that they don't have a next generation unless you specifically save seeds for the next generation. So plants also create these things called lectins that are anti-nutrients, or they inhibit your capacity to ingest nutrients and get nutrition from the plants. And they do this because they're like, hey, don't eat me. So all of these things, like when you say, oh, like you're eating meat and you're not slaughtering your own stuff, and you just farm it out to someone else who does it at the abattoir. It's like, well, you're just milling your grain and sending it to the miller, and you're not actually killing those seeds yourself, all these different things. It's just becomes ridiculous to the point of insanity. So I've just brought all of this, everything to ridiculousness to the point of insanity. We are here in the time field right now using these bodies that are repurposed from their original intention. And the original intention was to have a tendril of your mind or your consciousness or your attention that connects from where you are in a physical body to the sun and the stars. And that's where you're supposed to get all of your energy, thought, consciousness, energy, energy to move through time, energy to think thoughts, energy to be alive, like to have a metabolism, to breathe and have your heart beat, and to make fluids move around your body, and to reproduce. And reproduce doesn't just mean make new babies like that come out of your tummy, but reproduce also means like, oh, look, I just scratched off some valuable shoulder cells. Don't worry, I'll reproduce. I'll make more. Don't worry, they come back. So yeah, all of those things were what we did when we lived in a different state that was much more exalted before our genes were harmed and degraded to their present state by the planetary invaders. This is the whole point. So the same planetary invaders, they programmed everyone here to think like you're ugly, disgusting, and greasy and unworthy. And these are what I believe this self-righteous, vegetarianism or veganism is basically saying you are unworthy of even having a physical body, unworthy of even having nutrition come inside of you, unworthy of anything. And it's a false program. It's like when a person has been raped and that there's a social program that says, oh, you deserved it, you're very naughty, you wore that dress and you should never have been there. It's like, no, none of that is truthful. So all of this is like basically we are in this position where our bodies have been changed so that we have to kill and eat something else. And it's all life force, it's all equal, it's all the same. And that the way to really heal the situation is to transcend. Like I was saying, that science fiction movie, Captain Kirk reprogrammed the possibilities of the life of, you know, the simulation. Flying rainbow lasagna means that you can reprogram the possibilities of your life. You get to become a virtuoso of your body. I need to drink more water because I'm talking so much. A virtuoso. Thank you, Beth. Beth is saying, thank you for calling out the BS. Yeah. You know, like I just got to do this sometimes. I'm not like trying to be adversarial or I'm not just into like fighting with people. However, yeah, many people will respond to my videos. And some of the comments on YouTube have actually been very nice back and forths about, different philosophies of nutrition and everything like that. And again, like I recognize I'm in an anomalous physical body that does flying rainbow lasagna, and it's not built like many other bodies. I eat the diet that works for me. So Beth is also saying keto diet has saved a lot of lives. So yeah, I'm not keto, but I am low glycemic. So keto diet, that's like some epileptics use a ketogenic diet in order to control their seizures. I'm not that strict, but I do eat a very low carbohydrate diet and low glycemic, meaning that I don't eat certain processed carbohydrates that tend to send my brain into overdrive. And so I figured out what works for me. I would not be able to survive and live very well doing nothing but drinking fruit smoothies or eating nothing but, toast or, avocado toast. Like that is not the right diet for me. And I don't pretend to tell other people what to do for their body, but this is the whole point. Like, we're on this journey of transformation. And when you really transform, what you recognize is that all food is a program. All food is a thought structure. And then at a certain point, you can bypass the thought structure and go directly to the thought. What does it feel like to live on nothing but pure sunlight? So first of all, I came here as Aurora about 17 years ago. And that's the first thing I tried to do is just eat pure sunlight. And I didn't understand why it wasn't enough for my body. And the answer is because we've been in transition for 17 years. We're in this position where we are moving out of being like steam engines, where you shovel in coal and then puff, 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 puff out steam. And that's what makes your arms and legs move. We're moving into being solar powered, clean running machines. And we're not there yet. We're on the journey. So love means acceptance. Love does not mean that you pretend or whip someone or force them like a taskmaster, be like, you have to be like this. And also in Atlantis, we didn't have giant farms to farm a lot of broccoli or big giant farms to farm a lot of chickens to eat those things. What we did have was access to sunlight and crystals that stored that light energy. So I've said this on several different recordings. In my kitchen, I have a big giant 6 foot tall metal box that I use to store my food. It's considered an appliance that you wouldn't live someplace if you didn't have one of these boxes for storing your food. Well, in ancient Atlantis, everybody had giant 6 foot tall crystals. Like that's where you store your energy. Duh. What do you think you're going to do? Like when it's nighttime, don't you think you're going to need some energy? Yeah, of course, you store it in big giant crystals. So it's a little bit difficult to do that in this time and place unless you can invest in being someplace where it's sunny all the time, having access to big crystals, and also gardens, because the growth of the plants and the energy that the plants produce beautiful energy fields. I got to tell you all about this, guys. Plants produce a beautiful energy field. They produce a beautiful music. Their music is beautiful and ethereal, and it can feed you. Like you can breathe it in the same way that I do sun gazing. Okay, Aurora, how do you do sun gazing? I generally sit with my back straight and with my legs crossed, to make kind of a bowl in my lap, and I connect my attention to the sun. And when I do that, I'm looking at the sun with my inner eye, not necessarily with my physical eyes. So my physical eyes can be closed. I can wear a hat. I could do this, with like a shades that don't burn out your physical eyes, but do connect with your inner eye. And then I breathe it in. And let me just put down my little sculpture. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, that solar energy, it goes up here into my sinuses. It goes here into my sinuses too. And I feel it filling up my head and my face. And I literally swallow it down like coconut pudding. Swallow it down, swallow it down, swallow it down into your tummy, and feel it filling up like the bowl of your lap. And then keep on breathing it in more and more and more. Breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in. So sun gazing is not the same as sunbathing. I like to put on my bikini and just lay out in the sun and just be relaxed and pretend I'm on the French Riviera. This is something different. This is like more like yoga, like you're doing like a posture. You're holding yourself erect. You are doing a partnership with the sun, and you're ingesting light that you don't have to have a plant be the intermediary in order to get that light. You get that energy, life force energy, healing energy, and even nutrition directly from the sun. And it takes time to practice this. And the point is, so doing certain things like doing a flying rainbow lasagna meditation, or dance, cosmic dance party. Let me exit this full screen. It uses up tons of energy. So what I do is I do both things. I both eat physical food, peanut butter and whatever high fat, chocolatey good things that I can eat with tons and tons of energy in it. And I also do sun gazing. I do both things. It's like when you have one of those cars that can run on gasoline and it can run on battery power too. That's where we are in our development. This is the whole point. Our planet is transforming. Our planet is in this wonderful level of transformation. So for anybody who thinks the planet's going to die, I'm telling you, death is the aberration. It's the thing that's not supposed to exist. You're not supposed to think, oh, death is the way to get out of here. You're not supposed to think death is the answer. And you're definitely not supposed to think that there is some holy book written by some holy guy that ends the last chapter with the earth being destroyed. Like this is like the planet that I find myself on. This to me is just cultural insanity. But I'm referring to Book of Revelation, where it's the last chapter of the Bible. And everyone says, this is our holy book. And it tells us what's going to happen. The planet's going to be destroyed. The planet's going to die. I'm like, that's a terrible story. Like, don't listen to that story. So yeah. So no, you can read, because it's just like saying, well, everyone else that you've ever known has died. Death is inevitable. You're going to die too. And the planet's going to die too. No, this is not inevitable at all. So your death is not inevitable. Your ascension is inevitable. And what's happening on our planet, Earth, what we're experiencing right now, is a planetary transformation. And it does not have to end in planetary destruction. However, many people are mentally aligning themselves with those possibilities. And they're very fear-based possibilities. And if you need to experience that, do it. It's like if you want to play the worst music, play that music. But don't be in my band. Like if you want to be in my band, play good music. We're all playing like nice music with the plants and the microbes. We're all playing the symphony of life together. This is the whole point. There really is like a very genius, like a composer, conductor, a being who has organized everything. And there's room for every different type of music. Like if you need destruction, if you need death, if you need rivers of blood, you can have that. But it's in a very different place. Like I was showing you on my hand, there's different timelines. There's the central timeline and the peripheral timelines. The destruction timelines are far to the periphery. And if you want to be on those timelines, you can be on them. So here's the takeaway for today. Just like we have central personality characteristics, that's the real you of who you really are. And then peripheral selves that are not the real you. They might be, diminished due to disease, or distorted due to life circumstances. Like, if my little dog had to live in a Mad Max reality and fight for her life, like any one of us could have to live in that distorted level of reality. But this is all about where you focus your awareness, where you focus your consciousness. Which timeline do you want to be experiencing? Do you want to be experiencing a timeline where you are degraded and homeless and toothless, or one where you are in wonderful health and you have all the food that you need to be happy and vital, and you are able to share your light and your inspiration with other people? Like, these are varying different levels of possibility, and you get to choose about which, like choose your own adventure novel, which decisions are you going to make. But let's also say this. It's a distorted world. Let me get more water. It's a distorted world. It's not a perfect world. If it were a perfect world, then everybody could say, this is like so simplified and disingenuous, the way some people think this. If it happens, it was meant to happen. If you meet someone, you were meant to meet them. Can you tell, like, the sarcasm in my voice? If you meet them, you were meant to meet them. If they cross your path, it was meant to happen. Like, no. The answer is no. because that's like saying, oh, it's a perfect embroidery, and the great composer and the great conductor have made all of the threads put together perfectly, so if a thread touches, then it's the way it's supposed to be. No, actually, it's a horrible, horrible, knotted disaster type of embroidery where there's threads that have been cut, there's nothing there where there's supposed to be something there. These ones got tied together. It's kind of like cobbled together. The whole thing looks terrible. The whole thing looks like a nightmare. So this is what everybody has to understand. So big takeaways. When you're meeting someone else, and they might be very, part of my French, very fucked up and have a lot of fucked up personality characteristics, you can think, oh, look, they all come from the singularity though. That's all me. I'm just meeting myself coming from a different direction. Yes. And highly, highly distorted. Like if I were meeting my dog, the Mad Max version of my dog, I wouldn't try to hug and kiss her belly because she would like bite my face off. She's not her true self. And so this is truthful of anybody. Like if you meet a psychopath, a person who's just not the real version of themselves, like you can't hug them. You can't be like, I'm going to love them. I'm going to hug them. I'm going to transform them with love. No, you can't do that. They are distorted and they're on that level of like degradation, and it's the lens of reality and the lens of events will eventually focus their awareness away from the periphery and towards the center. That their mind, you know, I'm telling you, where's my little thing that I keep using as my mind? The attention, your attention shouldn't be focused on that peripheral life. It should be focused on this life. And my dog, when she focuses her attention on this timeline, we eat good food and we go to the park together and, you know, have a lovely little time. We're not on some kind of a timeline where, you know, it's like Escape from LA. My little dog came from a shelter in LA. That's why I think about this. Like, yeah, you know, whatever, there was an earthquake or some good, like people think about the Book of Revelation, and then Cheeky would have to be somehow surviving, biting other dogs or whatever. But that's a distorted level of reality. That's not the level of reality that we're experiencing, where we have a nice place where we live and plenty of food and we walk to a dog park every day. So this is the whole point, that DNA and the dance movements of DNA are what place us in a particular reality, and that it's our mind. When I say mind, I'm not just talking about the yellow intellectual level of existence that places you on a particular level of reality. I'm talking about your attention. That's like the needle on the record of your life, like old-fashioned record that plays a song. Your attention is the needle that actually makes the music happen. And you are, well, not obliged to play the worst songs. You don't have to play the songs of disease. You don't have to play the songs of degradation, like being attacked or raped or harmed or whatever. Tim is saying, create your own perfect reality. That is exactly right. So before the fall of consciousness, that is what we all did. We all created our perfect reality. Your body, our bodies, were all as perfectly fit and healthy as an Olympic athlete, all right? Each one of our minds were as perfect as a genius. Everybody in that time was a musical genius. Like the idea of not being able to play an instrument or sing or do something like that would be unimaginable. It would be like if you can't, you know, pick up a pencil. Like there must be something wrong with your arm if you can't pick up a pencil. Like it would be considered, you know, like a horrible, whatever, disability or something. Everybody was an amazing creator. Everybody was their fullest expression of themselves, of who they could really be, including being a virtuoso of the mind. And a virtuoso of the mind means how you collaborate with other people. So, okay, to give an example of how food was created in that world. So we didn't grow giant fields of corn and then mash it up into, you know, like whatever, polenta, and then eat polenta. Everybody created food with their mind. Different tastes and textures and structures of food were created with the mind, and then you were a chef of the mind. So the idea is sun gazing doesn't have to be like some flavorless, boring way where you're like, I wish I could be eating a cheeseburger, but instead I'm sun gazing. I'll just have to settle for second best and I'll just have to do sun gazing instead. No, the truth is, if you really want to be eating the feeling of a cheeseburger, you can get that directly from the sun and the stellar network without having to use the intermediary, the cow for its flesh, the, you know, milk from the animal, the wheat for the bun. Like, you can bypass all of that, so that none of those organisms actually have to participate and have their bodies killed, so that you can taste what a cheeseburger happens, you know, what it tastes like to ingest a cheeseburger. So this is what a true telepathic society, I'm just watching the time too, what food sharing would be like be like, oh, I want to feed you some fried chicken. I'm not going to like go kill a chicken and bread it up and stick it in the fryer. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is reach into my human experience memory banks. And I use this example all the time because this is way back in Woodstock. I have some friends and they're foodies, really good cooks, and they'd have a really good holiday party. And they made fried chicken. And like, I usually eat like grilled chicken or something that's, pretty healthy. But I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to eat this fried chicken. It was like buttermilk marinated. They did the breading perfectly. They fried it in lard. It's like, if you're going to eat fried chicken, you eat that fried chicken. And I remembered the feeling of eating it, so that I feel like I can reach back when I no longer have a mouth and taste buds, when I've transformed, or if, I have a different structure of my body, yet I have the recording, the memory of really immersing myself in that experience of fried chicken. And I remember that fried chicken so well, I could even invite all of you guys, be like, come sit in the kitchen. We'll all have a piece of this wonderful chicken. And yeah, you don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel guilty. Like, no chickens actually died in this. We're having a mental experience of fried chicken. And that is the value of being here in this time and place. Like, something, I don't eat chocolate cake or whatever, but I encourage everyone, like, eat the cake, eat a piece of cake, eat the cake. Don't eat GMO stuff, but eat good stuff. But eat whatever is the thing that you want to eat. Like, I don't eat sugars. It's not good for me, but you can eat it. And remember that pastry. Remember it, like, feel it. There's wonderful, wonderful things in this world, or whatever is your favorite food. And remember it as a recording for the time when you will no longer require physical foods. And so what you could then do is you could be like, oh, I'm going to transmit this bite of cannoli over to you so that you can taste how good that food can be. And, in terms of becoming a telepathic galactic society, it also becomes possible to share and transmit experiences to beings that have never had a human body. Like, they've not only never eaten a really good slice of pizza or a cannoli, they don't have a mouth around here. They can't do it. They probably could not digest those nutrients. So it would be like making something that beings could eat even if they didn't have the right equipment to be able to even be here. It becomes, what I'm trying to plant the seed is what it would be like to be a sophisticated galactic citizen. This is what it is like. This is what it will be like again. This is what it once was like here on this planet when the people who lived here, not only did nobody die and everybody was healthy, we were connected to other levels of reality, and in a way that we are not presently connected to those levels of reality. Higher dimensional, less dense realms, far distant realms of what could only be considered pure potential. Like, they're not even places that exist yet. They will exist at some point, but they don't exist yet. That's sophisticated galactic citizenship. Let me answer this from the chat, then I'll go into level 2, and I also have some drawings that I've prepared for this. So Cat Mom Peg is saying, years ago they were in the hospital, and they had a tube into their throat and their stomach to pump out the acids, and they were really, really hungry, so they were having some kind of procedure or whatever, and that they satisfied themselves with the thought of eating KFC fried chicken the way the food once was when it was good. I know what you're talking about. Like, they made it like a chemical type of food now, but there once was a time when fried chicken was like good from that place. So yeah, I understand what you're talking about. And these are mental foods, of being able to be sustained on mental foods. But for now, it's like, okay, that's considered the realm of the imagination. However, it can become the realm of reality. Let me just say one more thing. There are actually practitioners from the Far East. A lot of them are yoga masters, and a lot of them come from India or that area of the world, who no longer require food. And they've really done the self-cultivation to the point where they no longer have to eat physical food. They're just eating thought forms. They're just breathing in life force energy or prana and just subsisting on sunlight. And the reality of them, what is revolutionary is that once you find out a person can do it, then you think, I can do it too. The first guy that ever ran a marathon in ancient Greece, he expanded the limits of what a human being can do, redefined what human is by doing that, and then he dropped dead. But now people run a marathon all the time, and it's normal. Like, everybody runs a marathon. That's fine. You can do that very easily. So yes, finding out that there are people on this planet that live and are healthy and well, and they don't have to eat physical food, is a breakthrough, is like a revolutionary thing. So many people who are rational skeptics, when they find that out, be like, wait a minute, maybe the world is not the way I really thought it would be. Maybe I'm actually on this magical, supernatural journey. Okay, wait, let me read what Ben says. He says, recently I experienced a lucid dream in which I ate a delicious star fruit from a tree. Star fruit, wink, wink. in the moment, I remembered you saying food is a thought form. Awesome. I'm so happy to be experiencing the taste and texture of this tropical fruit while in a dream. It was ecstatic. That is awesome. That is like how expert chefs or expert eaters really get nourished. And I think that we are all moving into those levels. Like I thought very simplistically, very naively when I came here in 2001 that it would just be a couple of years. I thought maybe by 2003 or 2004, we'd all be light eaters. I really thought that it would be that fast. And you can laugh at me or whatever, but it's been a long journey. So I'm super happy to hear about your dream. And I'm here to encourage everyone and say, keep going. Like we are definitely on the right path, and also to love and accept ourselves at whatever level of transformation we are at. Like if you're not quite like, I didn't even know how to define it. Like if we are transforming or if we're being born into a new body or whatever, like you just got to love yourself at whatever level of development you're at. Don't starve yourself because you're like, oh no, I should be eating nothing but pure light. We're not there yet, and we're definitely moving into that level of experience. So let me just wrap up for right now, because I've done everything for the first hour's recording, but I'm still going to do level 2. So please stay tuned. And thank you to everyone who's been watching this.